Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome again. My name is Craig. This is our mentoring recovery support group. And we're going to start off. We're going to bring you an article. I'm going to bring you an article by verywellmind.com. You can go online. You can retrieve this information. And as always, we try to give you some information that can stimulate your thought process and also to help you with your coping mechanism, some tools to utilize to equip you moving forward. And so we know as mentoring, people mentor or encourage other people to live a healthy lifestyle. So that is one of our intentions here, that we can share and give some good advice. And through these articles that we're sharing, we think is very vital to one's recovery and sobriety. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So today's topic I'm going to be sharing with you, that is understanding the link between trauma and substance abuse. All right? Understanding the link between trauma and substance abuse. And so a lot of people may not be aware that through some traumatic event or experience, we can be traumatized. And through that, we may have a tendency to try to find a way of coping. And if we don't have the right coping skills in place, we can begin to mask our emotions, how we're feeling, or how we deal with a given situation with substance abuse, whether it be alcohol or drugs. And so I'm going to start off by reading the introduction. And so it says language note. It says substance use professionals have moved away from terms like substance abuse and refer instead to substance dependence, as the term abuse is considered blaming and stigmatizing. The diagnostic term for substance use and dependence that interfere with functioning is substance use disorder, right? This article refers to substance dependence rather than abuse due to this stigma. And so even though we have as the title substance abuse, they want to make note for clarity that that term has been done away with through the diagnostic DSM, Diagnostic Statistic Manual, and they have come up with the term substance use disorder. All right, and I just want to clear that. And so this article goes on further to say the link between trauma and increased risk for substance use disorders has been documented and researched for many years. People with a history of trauma use more substances and are at risk, higher risk for dependency. Substance use disorders and related complications compared to those without trauma history. Understand more about the connection between trauma and substance use and dependence. All right, and so that is something need to be known. And so we're going to get right into the article within itself. That was the introduction or language note. Now, before we get right into the topic, one of the topics, the thing about mentoring is that a lot of times people may feel that they may desire to have a mentor, may not have a desire to have a mentor, accountability person, someone, a role model, someone, leadership, coaching, however you want to term it. But there is a need for people in recovery, people in the reentry phase from recovery from substance abuse, in the reentry phase from incarceration. A lot of times we need to work on ourselves because we have probably experienced some type or some form of trauma in our lives. And so that's why I want to share this information, because I understand that information is very powerful, and more productive and healthy information that we embrace, I believe that our behavior will begin to change once we begin to identify what is some of the triggers, urges, and cravings that we may be experiencing, and what are the root causes. And so I believe one of the root causes of our substance use disorder can be or can stem from trauma. So that's why I chose this article. All right, let's get right into the topic. What is trauma? All right, and it says trauma refers to events that are distressing, disturbing, or otherwise upsetting. The Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorder, 5th edition, text revision, defines the traumatic events as exposure to actual or threatening death, serious injury, or sexual violence. This can occur in 4 different ways. Number 1, directly experiencing the event or having it happen to you. Number 2, witnessing the event as it happens to someone else. 3, learning of a traumatic event happening to a close friend or family member. And number 4, repeatedly being exposed to extreme details of the traumatic event, such as first responders following a disaster or therapists hearing about trauma stories from clients. Okay? And so there are so many traumatic events that may go on, that we may witness or we may even experience. And that is very important, because if we just brush it off and say, I'm okay, without seeking professional help, it can be have a lasting effect on how we respond to those who near and dear to us, and to the surrounding community. And so I believe it's important. I believe it's very important that we learn about what is trauma. The article goes on to further states, traumatic events can be a single event, like a car accident, or traumatic death of a loved one, or a long-term stressor, like living in an abusive household. Trauma can occur at any time across the lifespan and can happen to anyone. All right? Adverse childhood experiences, better known as ACEs, in this field of addiction recovery, we oftentimes hear about ACEs, ACES, that is adverse childhood experiences, are events that occur between birth and age 17 that can be traumatic and impact a child's stress level over time. All right? It says, are events that occur between birth and age 17 that can be traumatic and impact a child's stress level over time. So a lot of times we think young people is not going through situations in their lives, and we may not connect with them. And so that's why it talks about the generational gap. And so I believe that a lot of times there can be something going on that we may not really understand. And so within the communities, I believe at large that we need to connect our loved ones to all the professional help that's available. And so one of them is through a therapist or a doctor, physician, counselor, whoever it may be that addresses trauma. Okay? And so the article goes on and says, according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, ACEs include physical abuse, emotional abuse, sexual abuse, physical neglect, emotional neglect, caregiver with untreated mental illness, violence against the mother, stepmother, or maternal figure, loss of parent through abandonment, separation, divorce, death, etc., incarceration of a household member, substance dependence by a household member. ACEs are fairly common, with almost 2/3 of adults reporting at least one adverse childhood experience. They can contribute to many issues, including mental health, diagnosis, medical problems, poor social support, unemployment, substance dependence, and early death. Okay, these are some issues that we need to not run away from, shy away from, but and face them head on. Because in order for us to have a safer, a healthier community and people, we need to do just not brush it off as it's okay or it's going to be all right. My advice: please get the help. And so that's why it's my duty. I feel as I took on it as a duty, as being someone who bringing information, dealing with mentoring, especially when it comes to men, is very important, because a lot of times we may have things going on within us, and us being us as men being an example for our family. If we're not well, then it's going to reflect and it's going to show through our behavior. And so, therefore, we don't want to misguide our loved ones. And so, once we get healthy and whole, the goal is to get everyone in the household healthy and whole. All right, let's go on to the next topic of discussion. And that is, how does trauma lead to substance dependence? I'm glad you asked. Okay, some people who experience trauma develop mental health issues as a result. For many, trauma manifests as hypervigilance, re-experiencing the trauma and other symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder, better known as PTSD. Although substance use is not an official symptom, okay, let me read that again. Although substance use is not an official symptom of PTSD, about 59%, that's a high percent, of people diagnosed with PTSD develop issues with substance use and dependence. When trauma occurs early in life, the risk for substance use issues increases. Additionally, the more trauma a person has experienced, the more likely they are to develop issues with substances. Individuals who experience trauma may turn to substances as a way to regulate unpleasant moods brought on by trauma symptoms. The substances may provide comfort and positive emotions. Essentially, substance use can be a form of self-medication, following a traumatic or series of traumatic events, right? Self-medicating, right? That is a form that most 59% of people who have been diagnosed, that's what they do. They self-medicate from either a trauma or series of traumatic events. Following trauma or series of traumatic events, social support and immediate intervention can reduce the likelihood and severity that an individual will develop trauma symptoms. These interventions also reduce the risk for substance use issues, supporting the theory that substance use is a form of coping with trauma symptoms. What is post-infidelity stress disorder? What is it? That's a good question. So, wow, that is a great question. But the next topic, we want to talk about signs of trauma-related substance use. Signs of trauma-related substance use. Okay? So the article says, substance dependence and substance use issues can manifest in many different ways depending on the individual. According to the DSM, Diagnostic Statistic Manual, Revised 5, substance dependence may include many of the following behaviors and symptoms. Let me read that again. According to the DSM-5-TR, substance dependence may include many of the following behaviors and symptoms. We're talking about behaviors and symptoms, all right? Signs of traumatic-related substances. And this article says, the substance is taken in larger amounts or over more times than initially intended. All right, we talk signs and we're talking about behaviors and symptoms. There are repeated unsuccessful attempts to eliminate. Talk about signs. Remember, signs of trauma-related substance use. There are repeated unsuccessful attempts to eliminate, reduce, or control the use of the substance. Significant time is spent trying to obtain, use, and recover from the effects of the substance. When not using the substance, the individual experiences cravings and urges to use. The substance use causes functional problems, including the inability to fulfill an obligation. All right? Continued use despite negative consequences. Talking about signs of trauma-related symptoms of substance use. All right? It said continued use despite negative consequences resulting from substance use. I paused because it brought back memories of myself when I was in active addiction. That sentence that I just read, continued use despite negative consequences resulting from substance use. And a lot of times, I know when I was using, that was me right there, that sentence within itself. I will continue to use despite negative consequences. And so that there really struck a chord in remembrance of a lifestyle that I once led, resulting from substance use. Because a lot of times when we talk about behaviors, right, from symptoms, a lot of times if they're not, if the symptoms or signs is not identified or checked or put in its proper perspective, a lot of times we would, I know I experienced adverse behavior from utilizing drugs. And so I'm gonna just keep it real, the adverse or negative behavior that I experienced was going to jail. Okay, and so a lot of times people oftentimes glorify not only the addiction, but also glorify going to jail, prison, things of that nature, as if that's a badge of honor. And in actuality, when I began to think about that sentence and my life, it was not a badge of honor. It wasn't something to glorify. And so if you know someone and you see their behavior from the signs and symptoms, try to understand where the behavior is coming from and try to enlighten them by embracing them with positive information, a positive outlook, and hopefully you can get through them. If you can't get through them, and if they're ready for some type of help with treatment, whether it be detox, residential treatment, please help them get the necessary help. If they experience episodes of mental outbursts, help them get professional help as well, because there are numerous resources that are available. A lot of times people don't know how to navigate or how to get to these resources. Sometimes a lot of people may feel that they don't have the finances. And then what I come to learn is that if you don't have private insurance, there is what is called Medicaid insurance. Medicaid insurance can assist a person who don't have the financial money at that time. So there's always organizations, whether it be nonprofit, government agencies, however, they have caseworkers, they have recovery coaches, they have social workers, they have people who can help you navigate to the right resources for professional help. All right, let's move on. We're still talking about, I just want to give my little spill on that, but we're still talking about signs of trauma-related substance use. So the next one is touches on giving up social, occupational, or recreational activities due to substance use, risky or unsafe use, continued use despite knowledge of the negative consequences resulting from the substance use, increased tolerance, such as needing more of the substance to have the same effect, withdrawal when not using the substance, right? The article goes on to say, if you notice an increase in your substance use following a traumatic event, your substance use may be related to the trauma. If you find yourself using the substance to cope with trauma triggers or memories, there may be a connection between your trauma and substance use. If you tend to use the substance or use more of the substance following triggers, such as contact with the perpetrator or on trauma anniversaries, this can also be a sign that your substance use is related to trauma. All right. So the last and final part, which is so important, I believe I touched on it, but how to get help. The article is going to help us and gear or guide us in the right path towards where to go and how to get help. If you struggle with your substance use and have a history of trauma, help is available, okay? Reading off the paper. Many people who experience these issues benefit from treatment and have enjoyable, fulfilling lives. It can be difficult to ask for help, but know that you deserve support and care. Both trauma symptoms and substance use disorders are mental health issues. They are not indicative of your value as a person. Regardless of your symptoms, you are worthy of help. This is so encouraging. This article says, regardless of your symptoms, they want us to know that you are worthy of help. If you decide to see a therapist, seek out providers with expertise in treating substance dependence and substance use disorders. In addition, search for providers who have training and expertise in treating trauma and providing trauma-informed care. Some survivors of trauma and those who struggle with their substance use benefit from group therapy or peer support in their recovery. Your therapist or general practitioner might have information about local resources, right? The Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration has a directory of clinicians and national resources. This website additionally has information about supporting loved ones, seeking help in a crisis, harm reduction, and educational information about substance and substance use. If you or your loved one are struggling with substance use, addiction, and or trauma, contact the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Service Administration, better known as SAMHSA. SAMHSA, okay? National hotline at 1-800-662-4357 for information on support and treatment facilities in your areas. All right. And so that's it for this week of discussion or information sharing. Please join us next Thursday at 3 p.m. We love to have you give us some feedback. Love to be able to share these kind of information with you because number one, we care and we want you to live a healthy lifestyle, and so you be there for your loved ones. Remember, this is a mentoring recovery support group, and so this is all about peers helping peers. All right, it's not about I'm better than you, you better than me. This is a non-judgmental song. We are here as peers to share information and to give you some recovery capital. All right, until next time, enjoy, stay safe. All right.